After 12 years of Jeff Lehman's tenure, Barrie will elect a new mayor on October 24th. Last Sunday, 4 mayoral candidates faced each other for the first time in a debate organized by Barrie CARP, Chapter 36, and Engage Barrie Organization. It was held in person at the Salvation Army Citadel. 4 candidates participating in the debate were Weldon Hatchie, Gary Marshall, Alex Nuttle, and Barrie Ward. Weldon Hatchie seems to be the only candidate with no prior political experience. He is in sheet metal business. Gary Marshall served as the mayor of a small town of 9,000 people north of Barrie. He was also Simcoe County Warden. Alex Nuttle is a former Barrie City Council member and Member of Parliament for Barrie Springwater Oromadante. And Barrie Ward is the Ward 4 Councillor and Deputy Mayor of Barrie. Candidates faced questions ranging from housing, employment, youth drug crisis, policing, among others. Use the timestamp in the description to jump to the relevant section of the video.
On behalf of Engage Barrie Organization, I would like to thank the candidates and all of you for taking time out of your schedules to be here today. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are gathered today on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, including the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. Lake Simcoe and Campbell Bay are part of the Upper Canada Treaties, and the City of Barrie is part of Treaty 16, signed in 1815, and Treaty 18, signed in 1818. As a settler, when I listen and learn about the traditional cultures of this land, I come to further value the importance of shared history, storytelling, stewardship of our lands, and cooperation among people. As we listen to our candidates, let's take time to hear their stories and listen to their intentions for the stewardship of the city we call our home. Thank you.
So today, October 1st, is officially Seniors Day. So you'll forgive me, I want to do a little commercial. Last year, our chapter formed the Seniors Community Fund to assist seniors 65 and over with necessities of life if they live at or below the poverty line. The poverty line is just under $21,000 for a senior, or if you're a couple, it's just under $17,000 per person. Now, about 20% of seniors in the province of Ontario live at or below the poverty line, believe it or not, and heavy on the women. Probably maybe they didn't work outside the home or they babysat or whatever. But if they don't have family, they're in trouble. They're, as helpless as children in some cases. So you can go to our website, barriecarp.org, and across the top there are titles, and on the top right it says Seniors Community Fund. And there's a blue box, well, there's 3 of them, but the first one you come to is the rules and regulations, and the last page 4 has an application form. You can also donate on that page. You can do a one-time donation, or you can do a monthly donation like I do. I hope you'll consider it because, well, I think we're all good people and we really feel good when we help other people. So, it's right there on the website. I hope you'll have a look. Thank you for listening, and it gives me great pleasure today to introduce our moderator, Chris Simon. Chris has worked for newspapers and online publications throughout Simcoe County and the Greater Toronto area for nearly 20 years, covering municipal councils, politics, and key issues in more than 10 communities. He has written about subjects ranging from Live Aid to COVID-19 outbreaks. From his pen to your paper, please welcome very advanced and Simcoe.com journalist, Chris Simon.
All right, you ready to have some fun? First off, I'd like to thank Engage Barrie and CARP and the Salvation Army Citadel for having us here today. And I'd also like to thank our candidates for stepping up. It's not easy to put your name out there and put your thoughts and visions for a city out there for thousands of people to look at and scrutinize. So really appreciate the opportunity to do this today. Also like to thank the candidates for coming fully dressed today. You actually stole my thunder the other day at the Legion when you kind of talked about that anyhow. So, but we gotta get the joke in there. Also like to thank the candidates for using their real names today. But okay, so now that we've broken that ice, let's go over some rules. So first off, we have 4 candidates here today. There are 7 running for office, but 4 have joined us. We do understand Mike McCann may be on his way, but we've got Weldon Haishi, Jerry Marshall, Alex Nuttle, and Barrie Ward. Okay, so with regards to the ground rules, there are none. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Can you tell I'm going to Anarchy and Angus wrestling show later on today? So no, not at all. Okay. So each candidate will be given a 3-minute introduction to talk about themselves and their priorities. After that, we will have a short break so that we can gather questions from the crowd. I do hope you took the opportunity to write your question down and submit it on your way in. I will then ask one question on each of the following topics that were predetermined and submitted ahead of time to the candidates. One on housing, one on youth, and one on growth. Each candidate will get 2 minutes to answer each of those questions, with more time potentially available, depending on how we're doing for time. Then we'll move into the audience question portion, and I will direct written questions to the appropriate candidate or all of the candidates if necessary. At that point, each candidate will get 1 minute and 30 seconds for each answer. This block of time has 45 minutes available, so I'll ask as many audience questions as I can fit in. The goal is to end at 3:30 because they will boot us out of here at 4. So if you 3:30 will allow the candidates a chance to mingle and speak directly to the attendees. And other than that, I think we're about ready to go. So we'll start down at the end with Weldon, and we'll work our way along from my right, I guess, to my left. And then for each subsequent question, we'll move one down in the order, and then that way everybody has the opportunity to speak first and speak last. So without further ado, Weldon.
Thank you. Is it okay if I stand up when I speak? Will the cameras be able to catch me? Is that possible? Sorry, I'd rather stand when I'm speaking. Do a lot of walking. For those who don't know me, my name is Weldon Haishi. I'm also known as the Barrie Thong Man. I started early 2020 trying to raise awareness and wake people up as to what's going on with our government. Doug Ford said clothing was not essential, and I said, really? Well, here you go. If clothing's not essential, that's how the thong got started. So now, for those of you who don't know why I did what I did, for the introduction, I'd like to leave this opening letter. This is from a retired Baptist minister. His name is Walter Hoffman, 1F in Hoffman. That's his joke, not mine. I met Walter. I don't know if you know who James Topp is. James Topp walks across Canada. He was a military person, 30 years, and he got a dishonorable discharge for his freedom of bodily autonomy. Anyways, Walter wanted to walk with him to Ottawa, and this is my introduction to Walter. So Walter Hoffman's a family man and a man of the cloth. At 70, he worked out walking every day in preparation for the final legs of James Topp walk across Canada. Walter trained hard to meet James in Sudbury to accompany him on his final leg in Ottawa on foot. We went to support this loving family man and minister for standing up for a 30-year military person who served his country for his freedom of choice and was given a dishonorable discharge for non-compliance of an experimental vaccine. Walter's a well-respected, rightfully so. With his wife Wendy and his 2 daughters to support him, he's a man to look up to. When we first met, I was in my thong. He was very taken aback, but smiled politely and asked that nobody take pictures with me in it. Understandably, I respected this great individual for standing up for our military and our freedoms. After we met, he inquired about me and made a point of every rally after that to personally come over and hug me and shake my hand, regardless of the thong or not. We have remained friends and always will be. Today, I am doing what I do, dealing with the doubters, just trying to do what's right, spread truth through education I've received from Walter, this text. He said, good for you and the freedom movement, Weldon. Win or lose, you are making an impact and that counts for a lot. You are fighting the odds, and you wouldn't be the first one to come out on top. You're creating a whole new image for yourself, Weldon. Keep moving in this direction. There is much more to you than people realize, and you are bringing all that to the forefront. I do believe your image as Thong Man has made an impression was relevant. What you're doing now is so much more reflective of who you truly are, Weldon. A man to be taken seriously and to be respected in your own right. All those who supported you as Thong Man will continue to have your back as Weldon, the mayoral candidate. But now you will generate many more supporters of Weldon, the candidate. It's very exciting to see you moving forward. This is where you belong, and this is where you will maximize your influence. God has a wonderful plan for your life, and I see it unfolding more and more every day as it goes by. I bless you in Jesus' name, my friend. May the wonderful calling of God be realized in its fullest as you march forward. Do not underestimate the power of prayer as you strive towards your destiny. The glorious hand of God is upon you, Weldon. Embrace it, and I wish you every success moving forward. Love and peace, Walter. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming out. My name is Jerry Marshall, and I'm running to be your mayor. The role of mayor is one of leadership. My previous leadership roles, both in corporate and political worlds, provide me with the qualifications to lead our city. I had a tremendous telecom career. Started out as a pole climbing lineman, got promoted through the management ranks over the years to the vice president levels, and as vice president, had budgets in excess of $75 million to look after, staff complements, and greater than 650 employees. As my corporate career wound down, I became involved in local politics. I served for mayor, 8 years as mayor of Penetanguishene. I served 4 years as Simcoe County Warden. And for those unfamiliar, as Warden, I was the head of a 32-member county council. County council is comprised of 16 mayors and deputy mayors from 16 different municipalities. As a group, we're responsible for a $500 million budget and 1,850 employees. I was also the chair of the Ontario Western Wardens Caucus and a board member of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario to look after the best interests of 420 Ontario municipalities. In terms of priorities, I have three. Starting out with homelessness, I have many thoughts on all these three, but with the time restrictions, I'll be quick. While there are many steps to be undertaken, my first step in homelessness is one of accountability. I believe the City Council of Barrie needs to care for all of our residents, including the homeless. Currently, the County of Simcoe, and not the City of Barrie, plan, manage, and implement the homelessness portfolio in our city. This needs to change. Seniors' well-being, I have several thoughts on this, but here's two quick examples. We need to accelerate towards a community-based long-term care model, a model that would see multiple seniors receiving the care they need while residing in a smaller residential home, a home-style setting located in a typical residential neighborhood. We need to create a housing stock that allows seniors to downsize from existing large homes to a smaller, more appropriately sized home. And it would also hold the province of Ontario accountable to install the air conditioning in long-term care facilities that they committed to. In climate change, I guess we can talk on climate change for now, or all of us in this room, but my thought early anyways is I believe as a city, we need to be all in on climate change. It cannot be a portfolio that is merely added as a job function to somebody else's existing portfolio. We need a subject matter expert on board, someone whose sole task is to lead the charge, to develop long-term corporate and community strategies.
30 seconds.
Someone who can provide council with solid advice and present well-thought-out, move-forward recommendations for council approval. In closing, I'm not running for something to do. I got plenty to keep me busy. I'm running to do something. I'm running to be your mayor because I have the experience, the insight, and the passion to to make Barrie better for my children, for my grandchildren, and for you and your families. Thank you.
Alex, you're up.
Thank you to CARP and Engage Barrie for hosting everyone here tonight, or today, for this special election event. My name is Alex Nuttle, and I'm asking for your vote to be mayor of the city of Barrie. My family moved from Liverpool, England to Barrie, Ontario in 1989. In 1993, my father went back to England seeking work, and from then on I grew up in a single-parent home with my mother. My two older brothers, myself, and my mother moved into Mill Creek, which is government housing in South Barrie. I was 10 years old in 1996 when my mother was struck by a car walking across Wellington Street in Eccles, leaving her permanently facing both physical and mental disabilities. I grew up in a family that paid $100 a month in rent geared to income housing, on welfare, and subsequently on ODSP. Today, the most important question to answer for any candidate is why we're running. I'm running because the city afforded me every opportunity that could be imagined by a child living in poverty. I'm running to ensure that my children have a safe, clean city to grow up in, a city they can get educated in, a city they have ample job opportunities in, a city they can create a business in or invest in, and a city they can retire in. Affordability is a huge issue. Last year, my own mother identified she was having a very difficult time making ends meet. When I sold my family home, I purchased a duplex where my mother was able to have an apartment, and my own family lives as well. She was paying $1,750 a month for rent as a senior on a fixed income, the exact same number of the poverty line that was just discussed by Gwen. As mayor, I will work to get a variety of housing stock to market to address the supply and demand imbalance. Red tape can't be the determinant on when and if we can help people find housing, especially vulnerable people. Because of this, we will institute a 90-day turnaround for applications in the city of Barrie. But affordability is not an equation that only relies on expenses, it relies on revenue and income as well. Barrie has approved residential growth plans that vastly outpace our job supply. With as many as 40,000 people commuting to Toronto daily, we need to help businesses create more jobs here and more well-paying jobs at that. While Barrie could have 45,000 new people living in the annexation area, our current supply of employment will likely yield 10,000 jobs. With intensification, there's another 45,000 people moving to Barrie on top of that. This means we have 90,000 people coming for 10,000 jobs. I will work to get servicing of employment lands as a priority in the annexation area. This will allow Barrie residents to work here, to be in their homes at 7 a.m. and having dinner with the families at 7 p.m. Finally, we need a city where people feel comfortable and safe. As mayor, I will work with the province and the North Central Correctional Facility to end the prisoner drop-off in Barrie.
30 seconds.
It is inhumane for the individual to be dropped off on the side of the road in a city they don't know with the belongings that they were arrested in. If these folks don't get on the bus to go home and get support, they become part of the homeless population here. And that, while it's unfair to the city of Barrie, it is incredibly unfair to the individual. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I certainly look forward to the rest of the debate.
Go for it.
Okay. Hi, I'm Barrie Ward. I want to be Barrie's next mayor. First of all, thanks to CARP and Engage Barrie and the Salvation Army for hosting. I am currently the city's deputy mayor, councillor for Ward 4, which we are in today, and I filled in for Mayor Jeff Lehman when he took a leave of absence earlier this year. A bit about myself: I moved to Barrie almost 40 years ago to work at the Barrie Examiner, where I rose to city editor. I left and ran a bookstore in downtown Barrie for more than a decade. I am now back as an editor at various national newspapers, along with my council duties. Marge and I have lived a few blocks from here for more than 25 years. It is where we raised our sons, one of whom is now back home and working in the area. The other son is away at university, and it's their birthday on Monday. They're twins. I want to be mayor of Barrie for the next 4 years to guide city council through the planning needed to accommodate all the growth this city is going to see. Forecasts call for us to almost double our population over the next 20 years. I believe that I'm the best one to lead this planning. I have the respect of my fellow councillors. I know the area politicians at the county, provincial, and federal level. I know city hall staff. I like to say I will listen, learn, and then lead. My priorities are to protect the things that make Barrie great: our waterfront, our parks, our diversified economy, and our neighborhoods. That doesn't mean there won't be change. It means I'll work to mitigate the effects of the growth that we're going to see. Another priority is to preserve the services Barrie residents value: our emergency services, our recreation centers, our transit system. That means keeping up with the growth so citizens don't see a reduction in their services. My final priority is to enhance those areas where we can do better. Certainly affordable housing and supportive housing, and we'll get into that a bit later during the questions, I know. Our downtown, our infrastructure, including roads, our city hall services, where I think we've made great strides in recent years, but I still occasionally hear from residents who said it took me 5 weeks or 6 weeks to get a building permit for my deck or something like that. And I know those are exceptional cases, but I still think it's something we need to work on. I can provide the calm, steady leadership to achieve these goals to make our great city even better. Thanks to everyone for attending. Once again, thanks to CARP, Engage Barrie, the Salvation Army, and Chris Simon for hosting. Thank you.
Short but sweet, that was great. Thank you all for that opening round. We're going to take a 5-minute break now to get the questions. Yeah, okay. We're going to get going with the questions that have been pre-submitted to the candidates. Again, I'm going to ask 3 questions, one on housing, one on youth, and one on growth. The candidates will get 2 minutes to answer each question, and then we'll get on to the audience questions. So the first question is on housing. So access to affordable quality housing is a fundamental human right which affects our physical and mental health, prosperity, and community. The City of Barrie's Housing Affordability Task Force report, final report, has given us a blueprint of how to tackle the housing crisis. Which of these recommendations would you prioritize, candidates? How do you intend to support housing development in a way that addresses the needs of all income levels, abilities, ages, and stages, while also being environmentally responsible and working towards more diverse, integrated community building? So we're going to move one down this time, and we're going to start with Jerry. So whenever you're ready, Jerry.
You fooled me. I was going for question number 2. So on housing, in my mind, we need to leverage existing facilities. If you look around the city, you see the provincial, municipal, and federal buildings, and they're all 1 and 2 stories tall. Why do we not have a 3rd, 4th, and 5th floor in those facilities that accommodate residential apartments and create more housing stock? So we need to look at opportunities like that. You also need to complete a land inventory. So the City of Barrie, like any other city, has a lot of vacant land unused. So can that land be turned over into some kind of housing opportunity? So we want to have a look at those opportunities. Zoning. I hear it all across the province as I pay attention. Everybody talks about tiny homes and tiny communities. No council puts a bylaw in place that actually makes that happen. So we have to stop talking about those ideas and actually come up with a bylaw that creates the on-ramp to make that a successful opportunity. I'd also champion the building of homes for heroes. That's a great project. I'm familiar with the one in Kingston. I think it'd be an ideal fit here in Barrie, and certainly something that I would pursue vigorously to get into our city. I was proud to be a part of the creation of Lucy's Place. Was the old Bars Motel that got turned into housing for our artists to house. And so I want to see more of those opportunities taken advantage of. So do we have facilities, and maybe abandoned facilities, motels that can be retrofitted into creating more housing stock? We need to look at those as well. And if housing is an essential part of our life, we need to give it a preferred approval route. We need to get approval through this system much quicker than we do today. We need to move it at just a very, very rapid pace that we're not currently doing. And finally, we need to get bureaucracy out of the way. Simply, it takes far too long to plan and approve housing, and red tape delays for home builders, for renovators, and homeowners looking to improve means extra cost on the final end user, the end final purchaser. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Jared, for that answer. I think there was some great insight in there. I have a unique perspective growing up in affordable housing, and over time, I can honestly tell you I've realized that where we were in terms of rent geared to income was kind of one stop away from either a shelter or homelessness. And I think that that unique perspective I'm able to bring to the table and the empathy with it will serve both the city as well as people who are facing these circumstances very well. Affordable housing, it's a continuum. It ranges from home ownership to rental to transitional housing, supportive housing, and emergency shelters. We need a strategy that will address all of these types of housing and for all citizens of Barrie. As mayor, I will work to remove barriers and roadblocks for affordable developments like Coral on Bayfield Street, that's been there for 6 years and still not built, or what's currently being looked at proposed at Mapleview Church. When people come to Barrie with ideas, we need to ask how we can get it done. I support the recommendations in the Housing Affordability Task Force report, but we need action to actually get these recommendations done. Many of these were outlined in the 2015 Built Form Task Force report, but we haven't seen a lot of progress on them yet. I'll waive DCs and permit fees on all affordable units in Barrie, commence with a 90-day turnaround time, and prioritize developments that bring affordable housing stock to market right here in Barrie. One of the things that I think in the long term, as we look at housing, and certainly affordable housing, is breaking the cycle of poverty. And one of the items that I've always loved working on is PI education, which helps provide tools to children in government housing throughout the city and actually throughout the county, so that they can have the tools to be successful in school and hopefully chart a beautiful path forward. Thank you.
Affordable housing is good for our health, and it's also good for our economy. In other words, it is good for our community. We don't need any more studies, I agree with everybody, although we should always be open to new ideas. We have started as council to implement the recommendations of our Housing Affordability Task Force. We've allowed housing as a right on non-institutionally zoned lands, which is the kind of thing we're on today, and created a fund for faith groups to conduct feasibility studies on housing projects. And it's already drawn serious interest for several proposals in the works right now to provide housing, in fact, seniors housing, which is much needed. We must continue to implement the recommendations of that task force, including dedicating a planning staff member to work exclusively on the affordable housing file. They'd work with developers and organizations wanting to build affordable housing, and they would seek out federal and provincial funding opportunities. We need to look at reducing or even eliminating parking requirements, or allow shared parking on commercial sites. We need to identify publicly owned lands that could be used for affordable housing, and not parks, by the way. We need our green space. We need to look at new forms of housing, such as tiny homes, and the task force had many other recommendations, and one of my first priorities would be to implement those recommendations. Along with affordable housing, Barrie really needs more supportive housing to deal with their homeless situation. It isn't enough to give someone a place to live. We also need to provide them with the skills not to become homeless again, and that's expensive. Finally, the last thing I want to say was, as mayor, you're only one vote. You can only do so much. You can try to work these things, but the most important job for me as a mayor would be when somebody comes in with an affordable housing proposal, I would say, how can the city help you? How can I help you? And it's not just talk. When Redwood Park Communities and Salvation Army wanted to build transitional housing behind here, the first thing I said was, let's make it happen. How can we make it happen? There will always be neighborhood opposition. It's important that we don't listen to the old opponents who don't want to build. You can take it into consideration, and in that case, we did things such as moving it back a bit. We eliminated the second driveway, which would have impacted the homes. The most important thing the mayor can do is when somebody comes with a supportive housing idea, back it and help them get it built. Thank you.
Go for it, Roland.
I'm in the sheet metal business, heating and air conditioning, so construction's a very big part of my background, and part of that is keeping up on the innovations of construction and building. Now, there are countries around the world that have processes. They can build houses in a matter of days, weeks. They're building entire apartment buildings. One of the things Jerry mentioned was going up on top of these other ones. That's a great solution. We just have to be careful that building is going to support that excess weight. We may have to build brand new and go up. I also believe that if we look into these technologies, it's a fast solution for building quick homes. The zoning bylaws have been changing to help because of the shortage of housing. We are now allowing one or more dwellings on a property. This is where the tiny homes may come in. I've been looking at tiny homes for a long time, thinking about getting into that business. Now, that's kind of going into homeless and finding emergency shelters. We could build small, tiny homes at a very quick pace, just to alleviate these people from being out in the harsh elements, and give them some little safe haven for them to crawl into at night, getting into the weather. Portable ones, getting them in someplace safe. We can do this for the elderly, the tiny homes, people that are in larger homes. It's very hard on the elderly to keep it up. I know it's a family home, and if they're 90 years old, 80 years old, it's difficult to look after that large property. So it might look into an investment to put them into a smaller home, something more comfortable, maybe into a whole subdivision where elderly can look after themselves, and we can condone or contain in smaller homes and allow them to live safer instead of climbing up and down stairs. Tiny homes, I think, is a way to look at things, and the construction industry needs to grow faster, needs to keep up with technology. it's there.
Okay, on to the question about youth. And Alex, you're going to be getting the first go at this one. What plans do you have for attracting and retaining more young people to and in our city, including plans for ensuring a more inclusive, vibrant, and sustainable environment for them? How will you attract the quality and well-paying employment opportunities to give them a more secure future? And what programs and services can the city provide to them to build their skills and support young entrepreneurship? And by young people, we are specifically referring to people in their late teens, their 20s, and their early 30s. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Young people are looking for a complete community with a great quality of life. They're looking for a city where they can live, they can work, and they can play. They aren't looking for a city that they can sleep in and enjoy like a cottage on weekends. It is so important that we right the balance between residential and employment growth over the next 10 years. 40,000 people on the highway, weekdays commuting. 45,000 people moving to the annexation area. 45,000 people coming through intensification. Enough employment land for 10,000 jobs. This isn't adding up. Young people don't move somewhere so that they can drive somewhere else every day. As mayor, I'll work with Georgian College and the provincial government to expand university programs here in Barrie. I'll work with organizations like Sandbox to develop local talent and attract talent to our city and our downtown. We have a huge market of talented folks that are driving to the GTA every single day. I'll work with local employers to entice those folks to stay home right here in the city of Barrie and work their vocation. I'll showcase how valuable Barrie is as a hub for business with an airport 7 miles to the north, a rail line that can get anywhere in North America, and 400 series highway to move people and goods around. In short, if we have the opportunity for young people to thrive in their chosen vocations, they will choose Barrie. They'll choose Barrie to experience our incredible waterfront, our proximity to the hills, and our thriving community. Thank you.
I've already talked about affordable housing, and that is, for me, without a doubt, a key to attracting and retaining more young people in Barrie. No matter how attractive we make this city, they aren't going to stick around if they can't afford to live here. As part of my economic platform, I've said that my focus will be on helping existing businesses thrive and creating conditions where local entrepreneurs, not necessarily young, but many of them, or most of them will be, are encouraged to fulfill their dreams. The city's economic development program the department has numerous programs aimed at young entrepreneurs. That is focused on the Sandbox Business Incubator and the city-supported Small Business Center. I think we also need a strong and healthy downtown, since that is the place many young people want to be. My experience has been that they are the ones investing in our downtown already, both on the main street and second-story offices above. We need a city hall that reflects the diversity of our community, and we need citizen committees that reflect all demographics. Personally, I'm always willing to, I think I'd like to say a strength of mine is that I'm always willing to learn. I was appointed chair of the city's task force to create a marketplace where the bus terminal moves. And I really took care of putting together my committee. I was given carte blanche to create my committee, and I took really care. I looked at various people, and I tried to have a gender diversity and diversity of backgrounds. But I know the first time we met, I suddenly realized I didn't have any young people on the committee. It was kind of an eye-opener, and I really realized I should have paid more attention. Luckily, we had 2 young people in the community who kind of forced their way on the committee. They started showing up at meetings, started attending everything that we did, and eventually I ended up putting them on the committee, and it turned out they were 2 of the best people we had on the committee. So I'm not afraid to say that even I'm willing to learn. At my age, I'm still willing to learn that we need to include young people in everything the City Hall does. If we want to get young people to buy in, they should be included in city activities. Thank you.
Our education system teaches our children everything they need to know, but they don't teach them how to use it. I suggest we have some kind of a hands-on, like trade school for entrepreneurs, teaching them how to build businesses, how to educate themselves on providing for themselves and their family for the future. Not just for our youth, though. We've got a lot of people that are struggling daily, working 2 jobs, 40, 60 hours a week, barely able to make their rent and pay for groceries. We need this open and available to everybody, not just our youth. We need to teach and educate people on how to be self-sustainable. We need to have these implementations to help everybody. And working evenings is how I worked during the day and went to school for evenings. Every Tuesday, Thursday, or every Monday, Wednesday. For 20 years, I put myself through education at night. Raised my son as a single father. It was difficult. We need to make it more accessible. Not everybody can do that. I was traveling from Keswick every day to Toronto doing the commuting. We need to make things available and accessible here locally in Barrie. We need to have these schools and institutions in place with teaching staff who are coaches, who are entrepreneurs themselves, to teach the valuable lessons needed to open up businesses and come up with brilliant ideas on how to make our city a better place.
Thank you. First of all, I think we need to survey our existing youth. So why are they here? What do they like? What is missing? And what do they need? So we need to understand from our current youth that live in Barrie, what is it all about? Why are they here? What do they want? What do they need? We need to address housing. Youth start out in life making less money in the early days of their career. We need a housing stock that will give them a chance to weather the storm until they get to those higher income levels. It ties back to my smaller homes for downsizing seniors. Those same homes are entry homes for youth entering the housing market. Social interaction are critical to the youth, and we need places where they can enjoy life without having to spend a fortune. We need to create a vibrant downtown as a destination place to go and be. We need to ensure that we are inclusive, welcoming our BIPOC, LGBTQT, and new immigrant communities, and we need to embrace all the things that make us so wonderfully diverse. We need to leverage assets such as the Henry Bernick and Sandbox Centers. We need to be active and aggressive in economic development. We need to ensure our city's value proposition is current and positioned in a manner that best attracts business. And we had a great tagline. It was well-connected. Barrie is well-connected. We have Lake Simcoe Airport, 10 minutes up the road, Highway 400 series right here at our doorstep, 45 minutes to an international airport. Within a 1 hour drive, we have a marketplace of 9 million people. Within an 8 hour drive, we have a marketplace of 36 million people. We are a great spot to open doors and drive business. And finally, we need to embrace economic drivers. Sorry.
30 seconds. You're good. You're
I'm
good.
good to go?
35.
35. And finally, we need to embrace economic drivers such as leveraging and growing our arts and culture assets that are important to our youth coming into our areas. Thank you.
Mike, you want to have a go at this? Oh, never mind. Okay. Oh, I'm going to get myself in trouble. All right, last question is on growth. And so Barrie, you're going to have a go at this one first. Looking forward and beyond Barrie's housing concerns, how will you handle the growth of our population and the opportunities and challenges this can generate? What are your 3 priorities to make our community more equitable, safe, and affordable for all residents as we grow, while providing the infrastructure, public transportation, green space, recreation, and other city services required by this increasing population? And how will you work towards eliminating systemic barriers, including race, gender, ability, age, and economic status, to ensure Barrie is a safe and welcoming city for all residents?
Thanks, Chris. And these are great questions. We're given 2 minutes to answer, so I don't address some of the factors that are brought up. It's not because I don't think they're important, it's just we can't get everything in. So as you've heard, Barrie is going to grow a lot over the next 20 years. I like the fact the question we received talks about the opportunities and challenges growth presents, because that is exactly right. Growth means both. It is neither good nor bad. It is what we make of it. The challenges will be keeping our service levels up to as we grow. There will be more roads to plow, more garbage to collect, more transit routes to provide. There are more people wanting to use our parks. So the challenge will be to maintain services. That is why planning over the next 4 years is so important. But growth also brings opportunities. Intensification along main routes such as Bayfield, Essex, and Yonge create the possibility of more frequent transit. A larger population makes the Performing Arts Center more viable. A larger population means a better pool of talent for employers, enticing employers looking for skilled workers if they want to locate here. The question also asks how we would work towards eliminating systematic barriers to ensure Barrie is a welcoming place for all. First of all, I try to make myself aware of barriers, but as a white middle-class male, I'm probably not the best one to identify them. That's why it's important that the city have advisory groups such as the Anti-Racism Task Force, which we created last term. It's why we have a Seniors Advisory Committee. It's why we have an Accessibility Advisory Committee. It's why we should look into establishing a Youth Advisory Committee, because they can point out the areas where we as a city fall short, and when we hear from them, we should listen, learn, and act. And it goes without saying, as a city council, we must have zero tolerance for all forms of racism, ageism, and discrimination of any kind. I think there's one other thing the city can do that's really important, and that is to create gathering points for the community and create events where the community gathers. Because people will feel more welcome in their community and more welcome their neighbors when they have places such as our recreation centers, such as our festivals on the waterfront. I'm hoping to create this market in the next term of council. I think that would also be a place where the community can gather. I think the more chances our community gets to gather, there's a better chance that we'll be a more welcoming community. Thank you.
Again, everybody's got some great points. This is going to cost taxpayers dollars. How are we going to fund all this stuff? One of the ideas that I have is beautiful city of Barrie. We've got a waterfront downtown. Instead of bringing in congestion of all the tourists that we're getting, because it is a tourist attraction, why don't we develop it into an even bigger tourist attraction? But instead of parking downtown, we have outside of Barrie parking lots and we shuttle people in. We encourage hiking and biking and cycling, rollerblading. We want people out there kayaking, canoeing, maybe expanding our marinas. There's a lot of money in people with boats and marinas. We bring in those investments, we bring in those dollars to help pay for all of these ideas that everybody wants to put in place. They're all beautiful ideas, but how are we going to pay for this? These are all great ideas, but it's going to come out of your pocket, taxpayers' dollars. We need to make these things happen, but we can't afford anymore. Who's going to pay for all this? You guys. How about we let other people come in? They're coming into our city anyways. Let's keep downtown beautiful. We don't need all those parking spaces downtown. We keep a couple for the local residents, but all the tourists coming in, we have them park in shuttle buses, kind of like Rama does. We ship them in. We have little bus tours maybe throughout the city. We turn it into a tourist town. Bring in taxpayers' dollars, or build our infrastructure with other people's money, with the tourists that are already coming here. They're going to keep coming because it's so beautiful. Let's invite them. Let's take their money and use it to make Barrie a better place, and use their money to build our infrastructure.
Go for it, Jerry.
Thank you. One of the largest challenges facing our city is growth. It impacts us in every way. Traffic on roads, noise, sprawl, rising home prices, effects in Lake Simcoe, and increased taxation. To me, we need to look out 20 or 30 years to determine the needs, look, and feel of our city. Then we need to set short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. With those goals, we need to set targets and milestone date accomplishments. I work with council early in this term to identify where we need to be and put in place the on-ramps required so that our future can easily come on board. As we grow, we will grow in all areas. We will have some arrive with good health and financial stability, while others will arrive with being at risk of being homeless. Some will face addiction and mental health challenges. We need to have a full 360-degree view of growth to be prepared for all that is coming our way. Similar to the needs of youth, we need to ensure that we are inclusive and welcoming to different cultures, different religions, our BIPOC, LGBTQT, and new immigrant communities, and we need to embrace all things that make us so wonderfully diverse. As a city, we need to plan, build, own, and operate and combine affordable housing, including units dedicated to the hardest to house. The net result being a housing model that will increase the supply of at-market, affordable, and special needs housing, all of which need to be located in good locations. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to answer the second part of the question first. And as you can tell, we are, dare I say, three middle-aged white men and probably a younger white man sitting on stage. And so I think it's really important that we do everything we can to include as many people in this process, in the electoral process, but also as Barrie stated after, in terms of our committees and the makeup of our city. I can tell you I have members of the Sikh community, Hindu community, Persian community, Muslim community on my campaign. My campaign manager, CFO, and Director of Communications are all incredibly talented individuals whose leadership and advice I take daily, and they are all women. I will bring the outlooks of these individuals and communities to the Office of Mayor and work to improve daily on ensuring that our city, and specifically our City Hall, is a welcoming place for all. In terms of growth, I mean, the reality is the growth doesn't pay for growth. We've been saying that for many, many years. And then after that, we go and approve more growth. So we know that the equation doesn't work. We know there's a deficit every time we build a home. And yet we keep going down the same path. We need to focus on ensuring that we bring to Barrie jobs. And I know I keep saying it, it sounds repetitive. The reality is the more jobs we bring to Barrie, the more employment that comes here, the more buildings we build, they offset the cost of our residential taxes. You know, one opportunity I see in the city of Barrie, in our current capital plan, is a Southeast Recreation Center. It's going to cost over $100 million. Every night and weekend, we have schools sitting there with gymnasiums that are not being used. One of the things I'd like to do is work with our school boards to open those up. Open them up for sports, arts, mentorship, especially in places where we have vulnerable communities. We can save money, and we can also create a great community atmosphere going forward.
Okay, that is it for the pre-submitted questions. So thank you very much, candidates, for answering those with such depth. Now we'll do some audience questions. Okay, so this round we've got 45 minutes. Although we're having so much fun, maybe we'll go a little bit longer. Who knows? Rogers, you're okay with that? Okay. So. First question, and a reminder that each candidate will have a minute 30 seconds to answer this, unless it is directed at one candidate specifically, and then it will just be that who gets the minute 30 seconds. Okay, so first question is on long-term care. What new services will you, as our mayor, provide? And I don't understand the preamble, so I'm going to skip it. So this is, I guess it would be Weldon would go first on this one.
I was afraid of that.
Sorry about your luck.
That is a great question. I'm kind of stumped on it. I'd have to put some thought into it. I mean, you know, we have an aging population that needs to be taken care of. The nursing homes. I've got a friend who works in the nursing home industry. She runs 13 different nursing homes. And so I was very in tune with what was going on, especially in the last couple of years with this pandemic. I got involved in doing what I'm doing, you know, protesting because of a girl that is from a long-term nursing facility. She's the youngest actually in all of Canada. She broke her back. She's a native lady, and she broke her spinal cord. She's in a long-term facility in Scarborough. And when this hit, she was a prisoner in her own home, in her own room. They would put the food on the floor in the hallway and knock. She wasn't allowed to go out. She wasn't allowed to see anybody due to safety concerns over COVID. My father was in the nursing home. He was put into palliative care, and he was almost dying. They put him on morphine, and I said, we got to get him off of morphine. He had atrophy. They said, you know, because of the pain, he needed exercise. So I hired a nurse 7 days a week, well, 5 days and 2 days a week to come in, because they didn't have any way to look after him and alleviate his pain other than giving him morphine and rolling him over once in a while. We definitely need to look into this, and I need to dig deeper and find out from the elderly and from these nursing homes what it is best that we can serve them, and I need to know. I can't answer that question until I dig deep, and I'm truly interested in finding more out and helping as many people as I can. So that's my best answer.
Certainly, a couple things come to mind. So one is multi-generational homes. So right now, we still continue to build homes for single families, and we see, you know, we drive down the street and we see 3 or 4 or 5 cars in the driveway. We know the house has multi-generational families living within that facility. So we need to create zoning and build homes that are actually multi-generational, so that the seniors living in that home can be cared for by their children and their grandchildren. So it creates that environment that actually drives down costs for everybody, because now you've got 3 families sharing in the cost of that home. We've We've got better health care, we've got better child care, you have less babysitting costs, and you're sharing hydro bills and a few other things that make life a little bit more comfortable for you. So certainly I want to look at that. I mentioned in my earlier point was really long-term care facilities that look like residential units. So it's a typical house. It'll look like any other house in the neighborhood. The inside, of course, will be different. It needs to be accommodating for seniors that need different amenities such as the washroom facilities and handheld drips and that type of undertaking, as well as a place for nursing and PSW used to have a spot to care and treat and look after our residents. And then they're in a nice neighborhood where they feel comfortable, feel enjoyable. When they go for a stroll, they're with everybody else, and that makes a huge difference when you feel like you're part of something. Because we've got to get out of this warehousing our seniors into these long-term care facilities are just simply square boxes. We've got to be better than that. And finally, look at the County Simcoe to invest more into our area for long-term care facilities. They seem to be building around us, but not with us. And so, again, in that growth that we talked about before, we got to be working with the federal, provincial governments, and the County Simcoe so that those long-term care facilities are part of our future plans, so that we have them prepared. So as we grow, they're ready to accommodate the growth long-term care residents and seniors will come with. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And I want to start where Jerry just left off. The reality is the City of Barrie, through your taxation, transfers dollars to the County of Simcoe. And while we have votes at the Health Services, Human Services, in Barrie, I believe you're one of them, we have no votes on County Council. And the reality is that means we don't have an accountability of those funds here in the City of Barrie. So the question is, well, what happens and how much money are we spending? Now I'm going to go on memory here to over 8 years ago, and I'm sure Barrie will be able to update you after me. I remember it being somewhere around $200,000 a bed that we were paying to the County of Simcoe. We had 12 beds, I believe, in the City of Barrie at the time. I don't believe that that's had any substantial increase over the last number of years. We need to figure out a system here in the City of Barrie that works for the City of Barrie, because right now it works for the county and it doesn't work for the city. So as we're talking about long-term care beds, which is what the question was, the answer is writing the funding model here and ensuring the investment happens here in the City of Barrie. And that's going to take some very hard work between the city and the county, but even more so with the province of Ontario, who is the parent, if you will, for all counties and all municipalities. And I'm going to go to work on that because it is incredibly important for our community that we get the funding model put in place that actually allows Barrie money to fund Barrie beds.
I'll actually agree with Alex on this point because it is true. We have, as a city, we are required to provide a long-term care home, and it is provided through the county. They're our long-term care home provider, and we are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars a year for less than a dozen Barrie residents that are in long-term care. Because the homes are in Collingwood, they're in Beaton, they're in Aurelia, they're in Penetanguishene. They're not places where Barrie seniors want to move to. They want to stay in Barrie. During the last term of council, I introduced a motion at council to have staff investigate whether we could declare Victoria Village as our long-term care home. Victoria Village has been granted, I think, 124 more beds or some number like that. We own it. We own Victoria Village. It should be our long-term care home. So I know that's going to become a legal matter, but I think it's very important that we get our money to go to Victoria Village, not to the county care homes around the rest of the area. It may not save us money. At the end of the day, we may end up paying more, but at least we'll be providing beds for Barrie residents. So I think it's very important. The other thing we can do as mayor, something I've been doing as a councillor, is meet with people who are proposing to build long-term care facilities. Schlegel Villages, which owns Coleman Healthcare Center just down the road, is looking for a new location because they've been granted more than 100 new beds. And I've been working with them with staff to find a new location. They've actually found one, but I don't think they've announced it yet, so I don't want to say what it is. But so that's the kind of thing as a mayor you can do, work with the people who are proposing to build long-term care homes and find them locations. Thank you.
Okay, next question. This is gonna be a fun one. And Jerry, you get first crack at it. If the OPP put in a proposal to Barrie Police, would you support it if $3 million were to be saved a year?
Can you repeat that last part, please?
Sure. would you support a proposal from the OPP if it saved taxpayers $3 million a year?
Straight up answer to that is we'd have to entertain it. I mean, you can't walk away from a $3 million opportunity without giving it some serious consideration. But I can tell you that the police force that you have, we all feel comfortable with. When we go to sleep at night here in Barrie, we don't worry about ourselves. Our police force leaves us safe, secure, and feeling comfortable in our own homes and our own residence. So, I've been through this conversation before, and it's very, very difficult on a community to look at your home police force. And it doesn't really matter if your home police force is the OPP or your home police force is Sarnia Police. Whoever the home police force is, that's who residents want. And the reason they want that is because that's what they're comfortable with. That's who they know. That's who they are in their hockey rinks, coaching their kids, in their baseball parks. So yes, we'd have to have a look at the conversation. But I can tell you, I lean on the side of the Barrie City Police. I think our police force is important, but I think knowing our police force and their involvement in the community sometimes has to outweigh the cost. And I'd argue it would be very, very tough to convince me to save $3 million. Thank you.
So certainly, looking at $3 million in savings would be something that you'd have to look at. If you don't look at it, then obviously that's not a great decision-making process. Get all the information. But here's part of the information. I was a member of Parliament that included Midhurst and Springwater and Orwadante. One of the requests that I would get from councillors out there is to look at Barrie City Police, including those areas out there as well. Because one of the problems they faced was the branches for the OPP were so far away from the large residential areas. And one of the things that we have in Barrie Police is control. We may not like the budget every year, right? And sometimes there's going to be issues that come up for sure. But we have control over that through our police services board. We can choose to fund it or choose not to fund it. And I think that control for the city of Barrie is really important because it controls how many folks are on the street, what type of policing we want to undertake, where we can work in our vulnerable communities, how we can work in our vulnerable communities, how we can work with the local schools. So I think it's a really important asset for the city of Barrie, and I'll certainly endorse that going forward. I don't foresee any want in terms of a loss of service to the OPP.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth the time looking at it. First of all, I don't think we'd save $3 million a year in the long run. I think it would be more expensive, and municipalities that have gone to the OPP around the province have found that the savings were short-lived. Second reason I wouldn't is because I wasn't on council when we looked at OPP. It was actually a subject that looked at a previous council in the 1990s. And I know from talking to councillors there, I always remember talking to councillors that never looked at the issue. All we did on the city hall for 6 months was talk about the OPP. None of the other work got done in the city. And I think there's much more important things for council to be looking at next term in terms of homelessness, in terms of all the other services we offer. I don't think we should get bogged down in city council and discussion of look at OPP. I like having our own police force. It gives us some control. So it's a non-starter for me. Thank you.
Well, $3 million seems like a lot of money to me, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really a drop in the bucket. There's a lot more money out there that can be saved. I get a lot of people sending me emails, calling me, asking me questions about defunding the police. I don't know about defunding the police. I mean, they do a wonderful job. There's a system set up that may have its flaws, and we need to look into those flaws. I don't know about you, but I see times where cars pull over on the side of the highway and there's 3-4 cruisers there. A cat in a tree kind of scenario. We got an ambulance and 6 cop cars. A lot of times, is it necessary to have that many police officers there? I don't know what every specific incident that they're responding to, but do we really need to have 4 or 5 police cars in a parking lot or at a house? I mean, I get it for a death threat or a gun threat or something like that. I think there's a lot of ways that we can look into saving money. $3 million is not a lot, but I think there's an excessive amount of overuse of their position, and I think we can streamline things. We need to trim the fat. We need to look into why their budget is what it is, and then let's fix it.
Okay, just a quick announcement before the next question. Mike McCann will not be attending. He's not feeling well. So, okay, we'll move on to the next question here. It's about police perception. So, what is your platform regarding the perception of an aggressive police force? And we're starting with Alex.
Thanks so much, Chris. Well, in terms of our local police force, you know, I think that one of the things that we need to make sure that we do is we have training available for folks. You know, the job of policing has changed immensely over the past 25 years. And ensuring that there's proper mental health training and individuals who are there to be able to help in those situations, which is, those situations are certainly rising in terms of the percentage of calls that are responded to, I think is going to be incredibly helpful going forward. You know, the police force as a whole, I think in Barrie right now, we need to make sure that they have the overall monetary resources to do their job, because we've seen an increase in crime. And if you want an example of that, you know, we've had in the last, call it 11 months, we've had somewhere between 7 and 8 shootings that have been in the media. I don't know how many there have been overall. And that's a change. You know, that's a change from what it was 5 years ago. That's a change from what it was 10 years ago. And we need to figure out, number one, why are individuals taking these actions? Let's find preventative measures to help stop that from happening in the future. But number two, our police force needs to have the resources in order to be able to answer the call in those very dire situations that we hope don't happen anymore.
Sorry, Chris, could you read the question again? I'm not sure. Make sure I understand it.
Yeah.
Of course.
Maybe dig through the pile again. Thanks a lot, Barrie. What is your platform regarding the perception of an aggressive police force?
Okay, perception of an aggressive police force. So I guess one of the things I'd like to see is a lot more community involvement by the police. I think we're on that path. We have a community safety and well-being committee that works with businesses. I've had a good working relationship with them, because I worked with them when the travel lodge was being used as temporary shelter, and there was unfortunately a skyrocketing number of incidents in the area, shoplifting, vagrancy, that kind of thing that was bothering the businesses, a lot of drug use. And I worked with the Community Safety and Wellbeing Committee, and I was very impressed. They were out there, they came and spoke to all the businesses, they talked to the Busby Center, they talked to E-Fry Center. I was impressed by their approach. And we had 3 meetings, and by the 3rd meeting, the businesses on Bayfield Street were full of praise for the police, for the approach they'd taken. It's not an aggressive approach. It was an approach of working with the people, working with the homeless, working with the business owners, working with the service providers to figure out ways to solve the problems. And that's the kind of thing I think we need to see in police. I think if we have police, for example, walking around downtown and talking to business owners, talking to the people that are causing problems downtown, it will do wonders. So I'm hoping I'm answering the question, but I believe in getting the police out in the community and working with the groups. Thank you.
Well, this is a question I've got a lot of experience with, because you all know I'm protesting a lot, protesting my Charter of Rights, my Bill of Rights. So I'm out at all these freedom rallies. I see a lot of interaction between the protesters and the police. I was in Ottawa. I have been arrested a few times, peacefully protesting, still getting arrested for exercising my Bill of Rights. Recently was up in Orillia, and I was thrown in the back of a police car for protesting. A bunch of mothers and grandmothers asked me to come up because they were uncomfortable with 6-month-old babies getting an experimental vaccine. I was peacefully protesting. I was thrown in the back of a cruiser with no air conditioning. The doors and windows were closed, and it was about 30 degrees out that day. I almost passed out from hyperventilation. Despite all that, I keep telling all my protesting freedom family members, don't yell and scream at the police. You keep yelling obscenities at them, and you're only going to provoke them and make them think worse things about you. When push comes to shove, if they think you hate them, they're going to come back at you. They're only doing their job. Their job has been implemented by policies that are in position by those in power. Those police officers are just doing their jobs. They're family members. They got children at home. They got mortgages to pay. There is a bad perception about the police officers, and like every culture, every race, every religion, there's good and bad. So the police officers, they're working together with us. We need to work more with them and help them as much as they need to help us. It goes both ways.
Well, certainly, I think what we need to do is get our police officers out of the vehicles, and you need to get to know them. I truly believe that because I've had that experience. So you have a couple officers walking down downtown streets, your merchants get to know them, those homeless residents that are downtown and downtown core get to know the police officers on a first name basis. The residents are shopping downtown get to know the officers, and it changes the environment. And I've seen it happen. You know, my wife and I have ran 2 stores on main streets in 2 small towns, and one had a community street team run by the local health unit, and it made a huge difference. Everybody was more comfortable. The environment changed. It was friendly. It was more welcoming. It was less daunting, and everybody was happy. The 3 groups that really were happy were those who were homeless, the merchants, and those who wanted to shop downtown. So you need to change that environment and introduce your police officers into the community. And so we need them on the street, and I don't see that as an extra expense. I see that as an investment in our community. So if it costs us a couple more dollars in our police budget to get our officers on the streets, we need to invest in that. It's an investment, it's not a spend. Also, I've seen, officers on bike trails, so they're on the bikes, they're going down the pathways, they're going down the trails, they're talking to people, they're talking to residents. And there's a knowledge and intimacy there that develops, and everybody's more comfortable. So part of the problem we have right now is everybody seems to shy away from having our police officers engage and be part of our community. I see it the opposite way. Let's encourage our officers and fund our police force so they are part of our community, and we all feel much better about it. Thank you.
Okay, next question. This is for all of you, so that means Barrie is going to get to go first, and I love a good preamble. The outgoing council declared a climate emergency in 2019, and the City of Barrie Community greenhouse gas plan was also passed. Not much has been done on that. What can a municipal government do to affect change?
I'm not sure if I agree that not much is being done. It is a long-term plan, and we do have plans. I mean, the things we can do as a municipality are the same things people can do as an individual. We are electrifying our fleet. I think it means buses and other vehicles, parks vehicles, etc. Our plan is about mitigating the effects of climate change as well. So that's part of it, but a lot of it is finding ways for the city to reduce emissions, we build a new facility, make sure it's built to the standards that emissions are reduced. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do as a city and as individuals to encourage our individuals. One of the things that we can do is encourage people as educate the public on what they can be doing to help as well. So I think sort of the premise of the question that we're not doing anything is wrong. I think we are doing a lot as a city. We can certainly do more, but it's probably the #1 issue that's going to face our future generations as we're seeing around with climate change, that I think we have to address it seriously, and I actually think we are.
Well, when you're
Climate, our world is our world, and we've got to preserve it. We've got to look after it. It's going to look after us. Of course, we've got to reduce, reuse, recycle, and all that. But they've been talking about, global warming and we're in a crisis since the 70s. It's never stopped, and it's an emergency. It's a crisis. They say that every decade. Has the temperature really gone up that much? I mean, I've seen environmentalists who said that they've been studying and researching this for 30 years, and some of them actually claim that we're slipping into an ice age, not global warming. So I'm not sure who to believe. So I think we need to look into this a little bit more, but everybody's got to do their part. We need to look after our planet, and I think we need to teach our children. It's all about respect. It's all about looking after, where you get your food from. We're looking after our lands. Everything we see is made of plastic. Everything is reused or not reusable. It's like a Bic lighter. It's disposable. They don't make things that are worthwhile anymore that last long. You buy something and it breaks down, and they blame us for the environment. They took away plastic straws, but everything you get is in plastic packaging. So I don't understand what they're talking about. Why don't they do something? People, the manufacturers, they keep talking about us and what we're going to do. They're the big polluters. We need to go after them. It's not us, it's them.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier when we talked about climate change, I think it was in my speech, but we need to set some ambitious goals with progress reports that are measurable and identifiable and accountable. We need to make our decisions with green technology in mind, including greener public transit in our vehicles, and dedicated staff, as I mentioned before, focused on climate change initiatives. We need some of our staff looking like 5 years out. Came from an industry where we had a department and their only job was to think about tomorrow. They didn't think about today. Where's the marketplace 5 years from now? What technologies do we need to make us a successful business? What do our customers, in that case, need or require? Where's the market going? And I can tell you, oftentimes people go, geez, how did they come up with that? Well, we didn't just wake up one morning with that plan. We had somebody dedicated to look into the future needs and where the marketplace was going and how we could get there. So if you look at that new wave technology out of Toronto, they're cooling apartment complexes with water from Lake Ontario. And so they're replacing, hydro-generated air conditioning with water cooling from Lake Ontario. We need people looking at those types of opportunities for the city of Barrie because we're growing and we're growing quickly. So you have to have a look at that. The other thing I looked at was looking at one of the reports the other day, and one of the things we should be proud of the city is, our organics. So our food waste, we get about 70% of our organics are going in the right spot. And that's pretty impressive, and that's really well. But the challenge is, the 30% that's not going in represents 3.5 million tons of food that are still in our waste stream. So we have to set a target to zero organic or zero food in our waste stream. We have to set a target and manage to that target. So really, I'd like to start a food is not garbage campaign. Make it simple, make it clear, food is not garbage. And our school systems are problematic because our children go to school. Of course, the schools don't want the organics, so they take the food home so the children don't see this recyclable opportunity.
You're way over.
Were you yelling? But I was on a roll. Thanks.
Before I entered into full-time politics, my career was in commercial banking, and everything I did in commercial banking was measured. We measured the results. We figured out where we are and where we want to get. Every time I went through any sort of application, it was trying to determine what is it the person's asking for so we can understand it, and then we can measure whether they're doing well in the future. I think that's one of the things that we lack here in the city of Barrie, quite frankly, across the province when it comes to municipalities, measuring our results when it comes to climate change. We've seen Ian, Fiona, we see the effects of this. We've seen flooding in Barrie over the past little while. And I need to, as mayor, I need to sit down with our team and we need to say, okay, what are the measurables we want to measure against for climate change? When I was a city councillor here, one of the wonderful things I served as was the chair of ACDC. It was the Allendale Community Development Corporation, not the MAND. And what we did was we signed a deal with the city and on behalf of the city with the Metrolinx to bring the second train station to Barrie. That's one side of it. We have 40,000 vehicles worth of carbon going to Toronto every single day. That is a huge number, and it's only going to get worse. If we want to have an impact as a city, I don't want to see more highways. Even the GO train, it's great to be able to move people, but if we have them working here, we're preventing those emissions from ever happening. And finally, I want to make sure that we can partner with a cap and trade company, because as we make these changes and as we make progress, we can then sell all of the emissions that we've held, everything that we've captured, to other companies and actually turn our environmental standards into a revenue generator for the city of Barrie. That's the future for us.
Okay, next question, because this person clearly has not read Simcoe.com lately. It's about safe injection sites. Do you understand what is delaying the opening of the site at 11 Ennisville Street in Barrie? And we're starting with Weldon.
I've been asked about that. I think we got to get to the root of the problem. Safe injection sites. I'd like to keep everybody safe, especially our homeless, our vulnerable drug addicts. But why are they drug addicts? Because they've got no hope, no future. They got nothing to look forward to. They've lost everything. And society, to them, has turned their backs on them. Now you're going to give them a safe injection site? Why don't you just offer them the suicide, a doctor-assisted suicide? I mean, they're going to inject themselves till when? Till they die? Safe? What's safe about injecting? You're just getting them out of sight, out of mind, put them somewhere else. We don't have to see them. You don't want to see them on the streets. We got to look after these people. I want them safe, but we got to look after them as well as everybody else in this city. But safe injection sites, I don't know. I think we need to look after them and try and get them off of drugs. And it's a bigger thing than just a safe injection site.
So the question, I think, was, do I know what's holding it up at Queen's Park? And I don't have a clue. That's up at their level, and we'll have to pursue that when we come into play. But I think, Weldon's gone on to the right topic. So what is a safe consumption site? Do I believe in it? The answer to the question is yes. And why? It's simple. It saves lives. That simple to me. And so what we need to do is have a look at the site there in 11 Newsville Street, and I understand the residents' concerns, I really, really do. And what I want the government to do is answer their questions before that site opens. What are the hours of operation? How you protect the children? What will happen to a resident who's injected at that site after the injection? Those are fair questions that need to be answered, and they're unanswered at this point. So I certainly want to answer those questions, understand them. But I also look at it a little broader perspective. As the fact of the matter is that, I've been all over the city of Barrie, door knocking, as everybody on this stage has. And we have an addiction problem in all 10 wards. It is there in every ward. So in a safe injection site, is someone from Ward 10 going to travel all the way to downtown Barrie to get an injection? The answer to that question is probably no. So I'd like to look at a mobile safe injection site. If we could do it for COVID needles and to give us needles to help us through that COVID crisis, why can we not have a mobile safe injection site or a unit that arrives at your house, protects your privacy, and looks after your needs? Thank you.
I believe the question was related to do I know what's holding up, and the answer to that is no. I think that this is something that falls under the provincial jurisdiction in terms of the approval. Something that falls under the provincial jurisdiction in terms of the approval process. I will wait and see where that lands and go from there. In terms of services in the city of Barrie, there's a 705 which is opened up on Nuttle Street. There is Cornerstone, which is recently opened up, and I think that there are strides being made in the right direction here. There are strides being made in the sense that I believe the rehabilitative services are the end game for folks who are experiencing addictions. And there are holes that exist in our system. And I'll give you an example. I know somebody who is a very dear friend of mine who's experiencing issues with addiction, and having that person go to detox is a very difficult thing to do because it's so busy. We just don't have the capacity. We have a moment in time where that can happen. And so I really think that we need to invest in both rehabilitation, in ensuring that there's availability in detox and other services, rapid services. And I think that if we have a 360 look at this, I think it will really help our city, and more importantly, it will change some pretty incredible lives that are suffering right now.
As we've heard, the question was what's happened with the safe consumption site, and it's basically before the province. The province is a local initiative to establish the site, but it's the province that will have to fund it, and the province has not come through with funding. I led a deputation of Barrie councillors to meet with the Health Minister, Sylvia Jones, in August to ask her, among other issues, ask her what was happening with it, and we got no commitment whatsoever, so I don't know what's happening. There is a possibility the federal government can always step in and provide funding. I haven't seen any indication that's happening as well. I'm a supporter of the safe consumption site. I leave those kind of decisions to the experts, and the expert says it's one of the pillars in a multi-pronged approach to dealing with our opioid crisis, which is killing people, killing thousands of people in Canada, killing hundreds of people here in Simcoe County. It will save lives. It won't save all the lives, and it's not the only solution, but it's part of the overall solution, and it's very necessary. I find it bizarre that council was even asked where it was going to be located. We don't get asked about anything else, but when the province locates something, why they ask us for our approval, I do not understand. But they picked the site, and I think the sooner we get it up, the sooner some lives in Barrie will be saved. Thank you.
Well, do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I don't think it's about a minute and a half. Just one more thing to add. A friend of mine's son has been struggling with addiction, and he was going down to the methadone clinic. He found out a product called Sublocade, and Sublocade is a wonderful drug. He calls it a miracle drug. He's been addicted. He's been cracking needles for over 10 years now. He's finally clean after Sublocade. There's a lot of questions to be asked. We need to look into it. We need to talk to the doctors. We need to talk to the pharmacists. But Sublocade, they don't tell you about it. They keep selling this methadone. It's coming out of our taxpayers' dollars. There's a lot of money being wasted that could be reallocated and properly used using drugs like Sublocade to get them off faster and sooner instead of the slow process of methadone.
Okay. The next one is on the city's debt servicing. So the city is currently hundreds of millions of dollars in debt. That is projected to grow over the next few years. What would you do about debt servicing? And Jerry, you're up.
Thank you very much. So it starts out with going through our budget line by line. So when council gets together, we need to look at our budget and we need to review those budgets. So I've done this before, big corporations, and you have multiple departments often spending money on similar things. So, you know, the engineering's got a marketing budget and planning's got a marketing budget, somebody else has a marketing budget. But if you look at those marketing budgets in individual pieces, it doesn't look so bad. And when you total them all up, it's a staggering number. And so, you know, at the county Simcoe, we save hundreds of thousands of dollars in making sure the marketing department manages marketing needs of all departments, saving those type of dollars. And that money goes right on to the debt. And so we need to pay it down. And what happens at the end of every council every year, you know, cities end up with a surplus. And everybody wants to do something fun with the surplus, right? We want to fund the park, and we want to do something that we can show up, cut a cake, cut a ribbon, and get some photos, and everybody's really happy. We need to be more sobering than that, more clear than that. If we have tens of millions of dollars, which is not a big savings when you have a $500 or $600 million budget, to see us with a $710 million surplus. You take that surplus and you put it onto the debt. And it's very clear. Our debt yesterday was $500 million. I just put $10 million on it. My debt now today is $490 million. There's no smoke and mirrors. People can understand simple conversations. So we have to manage the overall spending of the city to drive down that debt, because that debt can't go up. We can't afford for it to go up. And we have to manage it, but we have to manage it from all aspects of how we spend our money. And when we have a surplus, look at that as not frivolous money. Look at that as serious money that should be put against a serious debt. Thank you.
Look, I think that Jerry's on the right path there. You know, surpluses should be going to retiring debt. I also think that when we're looking at the plans for the city going forward, the capital surcharge the city has, I think, is a good thing to have. It pays for the infrastructure, and I would continue with that as mayor. But I'd also look at zero-based budgeting throughout City Hall. You know, I was looking at other municipalities, and what they experienced was when they shut down spending in the final month of the year, that they had a 20% reduction. Can you imagine that? So we need to take a look at take some of those steps where we can actually find the savings. And we shouldn't be having a situation where staff are dictating what's happening by the last end of the month or end of the year spends, so that they can justify budgets for future years. You know, the other thing that I think is incredibly important is to recognize that last October there was a report that came forward to look at the next 10 years. And the next 10 years, every councillor, or most, if not every, said, you know, I can't believe how much debt we're about to take on. And then what did we do in January, February, March? We added $300 million of new spending on top of that over the next decade. We need to be serious about this, right? We need to sit down and look and go, what can we afford, right? What are we able to complete? The other item that I think is really important is to look at our past and learn the lessons. The wastewater plant and the water plant, we put huge investments in, upwards of $500 million overall. You ask yourself, why are our water and wastewater rates going up so heavily? Right? Everyone knows that, everyone sees it. It's almost another mortgage payment between that and taxes. And the answer is because we've made all of these infrastructure improvements already, but we haven't had the customer base to service it. By servicing lands outside of Barrie to our member municipalities around us and creating jobs, we can help them, help us share the burden. Thank you.
Okay, I've got a bit of a different take on it. So we have about a $300 million, northwards of $300 million debt in the city right now. Most of it is for two projects, the water treatment, surface water treatment plant and the wastewater plant. And both of them, the money went into those to expand those plants, to take care of growth. And in case of the wastewater plant, it also goes to improving the water quality that's leaving that plant, which improves the water quality in Kemptveld Bay. Those were built for future growth. They're going to be paid, that debt is going to be paid by future growth. Development charges on future growth. Almost all of that debt is going to be paid by future residents, which is the way it should be. The alternative would be to have current residents pay for the debt for the things that future residents are going to enjoy. So I'm actually not sure if I want to see surpluses that are paid by current residents go towards reducing the debt that future residents are going to be paying. So, I mean, that doesn't mean we have to be careful. We shouldn't be adding to the debt, but it's all for capital costs for future residents. We're not borrowing, we're not going into debt to cover operating costs. So and a lot of that debt was taken at very, very low, historically low interest rates, and that's not 5-year terms. I mean, that's a rate that's going to be paid over 30 years at very low terms. I think it's actually a great deal. I know it's scary to think we've got that debt, but it's going to be paid by the charges on new homes and new businesses that come to Barrie. Thank you.
That was a great answer, Barrie. I love that. I don't want to use cliches, like trimming the fat, but there's a lot of businesses out there, large businesses. They're making huge profits, billions of dollars quarterly, annually. Banks are making money through your investments, through your taxes. Why do we have to continue paying to make them rich, and we have to continue paying for our communities? Why can't these businesses that are coming into our community contribute more, pay more taxes? Why do we have to fund everything when we're making them rich? Why can't we dig into that and see why don't they help our communities out a little more instead of just having their little fundraisers and putting the little coin box in the bank and donate for the children's charities? It's like they're making billions and we're giving them the money to invest and we're getting very little back and we're expected to pay for everything while they're getting rich. Doesn't make sense to me. Let's look into that.
Okay, this is an issue that has come up at council pretty recently. Do you support Bill 5, and does it go far enough? So, Alex, you get the first crack at this one.
I think we'll be really quick on this one. The answer is yes, I do. And I think that what we're looking at, harassment in the workplace is, everyone deserves a place that they are able to get their work done, to ensure that it's safe for them, safe for members of the public, safe for members of the community, safe for members of staff. And so without a doubt, that would be a yes. The other thing I think that we need to really dialogue on, and quite frankly, it came into today's debate, is ensuring that the dialogue between members of staff or members of council and the public is always maintained in a way that doesn't promote harassment. And I think at this point I'd like to thank Engage Barrie and CARP for the decisions they made over the last 48 hours. Leadership is not an easy thing sometimes. We showed that in the last 24. And I think going forward, as a community, we need to make sure that we are promoting always at every opportunity, promoting a safe and harassment-free workplace, as well as a political dialogue in our community. Thank you.
The council that I'm on is now twice passed an unanimous resolution supporting it, so it's pretty obvious how I feel. I agree completely. Nobody should feel threatened at work. And in fact, I can say I took the lead when there was a case of it that came up in the last council. I'm the one that took the lead in trying to hold the councillor accountable. We did to some degree, maybe not to everybody's satisfaction, not to my satisfaction, but I think my record speaks for itself. Thank you.
Well, all I do is go out there, try and spread peace and love, and everybody knows that I'm trying to stand up for Canadians and do the right thing. And I can tell you firsthand that there's a lot of people out there that just plain hate, and some of them are just mean and nasty. So I'm definitely supporting this one. Peace and love.
So the answer is 100% yes. And harassment between staff and council members, it's not unique to the city of Barrie. You see it all over the province of Ontario as you watch different councils. We have a situation a couple of years back where the mayor from Sarnia was actually removed from City Hall by his council, saying, no, the way you're treating staff is not acceptable. And they actually physically had him in an office that was separate from City Hall, and the only time he could come to City Hall was actually for council meetings. So that council took aggressive action on their own right up front. And so you can take action on your own. You can be more forceful as a council to enforce those rules. But certainly Bill 5 is part of it, but it's accountability by each member of council as well. You know, we're going to have moments of disagreement, but we have to have those moments in an agreeable manner. It's okay to have a different opinion, but it's okay in a different opinion with staff. But you got to make sure how you express those opinions and how you challenge staff during the meeting, because staff may have a report, you might not like something on that report, but you have to ask that question in a professional manner. So when you push back on maybe a proposal or a recommendation that you don't like, you need to be respectful and you need to choose words carefully so that, you know, everybody in the room feels comfortable having a conversation. And being uncomfortable at City Hall is just something that shouldn't happen.
Okay, now the lightning round. No, if it's okay, we're just going to take a brief 5-minute break, and we'll just kind of reset. We'll come back and do some more questions after that. So, this next question, I'm not sure if you guys are going to talk to me after this one. All right. So, a candidate who was invited today has been accused of harassment and charged with a DUI while in office. Another has been complacent and has yet to condemn those actions publicly. Another was recently arrested in Aurelia, and another has promoted gun violence as a means to ending an Indigenous blockade. Another, as warden, allowed homelessness to climb to historic levels. None of these are trustworthy actions. Why should we trust you now? Well, it is Barrie's turn to go first. You will get your say, don't worry.
Yeah, he's going to get it pretty quickly, actually, because I am not going to comment on anything about my other candidate, so I respect the process, and I'm just not going to comment. So, well, then it's all yours.
I briefly spoke about this before. I got a minute and a half now. I was invited by the mothers, grandmothers, and some children. I have been protesting. These experimental vaccines have not been fully approved. They were for emergency use only. Parents out there have been concerned because they're afraid for their children. There's been a lot of side effects happening. This was over the fact that they were opening up the site in Aurelia at the hospital and injecting 6-month-old babies. I'd like to err on the side of caution. I think we need to protect our children. I will go to jail again. I will be arrested again. I think these things need to be looked at. I think they need to be halted. Doctors around the world have been raising awareness that these are not working. And there's countries like Finland have stopped giving the vaccines for people under the age of 50. Unless you're at high risk, our children have amazing immune systems. They are not at risk. Our elderly, our sick, and our frail are. I'm sorry, I will fight for our children. I will go to jail. That is why I was arrested, and I'll do it again.
Well, thank you. I won't speak to the other candidates, but if I look left and I look right, I think I'm the only warden in the room, I'm pretty sure. So I will speak to that. So as the warden, I took great pride in our efforts there as a warden. We actually had a great affordable housing committee. We committed to building 2,685 affordable housing units in a 10-year period. And what we did beyond that as the warden, I went to all 18 municipalities in the East County of Simcoe, including the city of Barrie, and we gave them a homeless report. We told them what the targets were in each one of those centers, and I showed up 2 years later and told them where we were at and what we needed to do. Beyond that, we also recognized from the affordable housing that our original plan at the county was flawed a little bit in our criteria. The criteria said you had to be on a bus route, or you had to be close to this, you had to be close to that. What meant the small hamlets, like Victoria Harbour, Coldwater, some of those other smaller communities, didn't have a program, so we invested another $2 million to make sure our smaller hamlets and villages had accommodations for the homeless. And I'm quite proud after that, as I retired from warden, I got to work with my son Steve, and we turned our shipping containers into affordable housing units and have done it across the province of Ontario, providing another safe haven for those who are homeless to live and play and work. So, anyways, we did our best. I'm pretty proud of my record. Thank you.
Thank you. Look, I think think there was a number of issues brought up in that. I think I want to take the opportunity to talk about those. You know, homelessness, I don't think there's a person on stage here who doesn't want to do everything they can to help the homeless here in the city of Barrie, but not just the city of Barrie, all around, right? Because we're a geographic center. And the reality is that means folks from all around the communities, they'll come here. They'll look for services, they'll look for opportunities, maybe it's housing they're looking for, shelter. And the reality is I know that all the people on this stage want to do the best thing for those folks. When it comes to the Indigenous community, you know, yesterday I had the opportunity to go down to the Spirit Catcher and Truth and Reconciliation Day. And you know, one of the neat things that I've been able to participate in over the years and help start was something called Pie Education. Talked about it earlier. Pie Education gives backpacks to every child in government housing, but it also gave backpacks to children on First Nations. Christian Island, Bosley, Watauga Mohawk, up in Muskoka. You know, there's lots of opportunities for us to do better with the Indigenous community here in Barrie, to work with the Native Friendship Center, to make sure that we're providing every opportunity possible. And when it comes to City Hall, I've been very clear, and I'll be clear every single day that I'm mayor of the city of Barrie. It is a place that needs to be free of harassment, especially sexual harassment. And there won't be any hiding from it for 6 or 8 or 12 months or 24 months. It'll be immediate. Because you know what? If my daughter wants to work in that place one day, it better be safe for her to do so. Thank you.
Okay. Trying to respect some time restraints here, so I'm going to say that this is probably going to end up being the last question that we're going to get in today. It is about remote work. Considering remote work is becoming more commonplace, how do you think this will impact creating and drawing well-paying jobs to Barrie? And Weldon, you're up.
I would love to work remotely. I do a lot of traveling, a lot of driving. It's not the best for the environment. It's not the best, you know, in my pocketbook, paying for gas. I think that people like working from home, but you know, they also need to keep, you know, social. We need to get out there, and we need to integrate and speak amongst each other. If it works and it saves money and it saves on gas, but you know, we just got to make sure that these people don't stay at home and you know, get cabin fever kind of thing. You know, I think it's a great idea. I don't really understand is there an issue with the question, or like?
Well, I think it's about, since people are working remotely, how you're going to continue to attract those jobs to Barrie.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of outsourcing going on. You know, they're sending stuff off to India and other countries, and we're getting, you know, phone calls from them, and we're dealing with people from that don't even live in Barrie. So outsourcing could take away a lot of local jobs, but
30 seconds.
It could also create jobs. I don't even know. I can't answer that one, because people want to work from home. They're going to work from home, and if they can make money from home, all to it. But we need to make jobs in Barrie, whether or not they're remote or in a factory or promoting somebody's own business.
Well, that's a great question, and so what we need to do is sell the city of Barrie. So if you get to work remote, why would you work anywhere other than the city of Barrie? Why are we not promoting live, work, and play in Barrie? I mean, we have great assets. We're a wonderful city. We've got great waterfront. We're viable. We're vibrant. We're all the things that you want to do to live, work, and play. And so when I look at these opportunities, when they have these type of questions, is yes, the main business might be somewhere else in the world. But if that employee can live, work, and play in the city of Barrie, we need to encourage them. And when I look at things such as, you know, I had a post the other day in social media about, you know, getting their Wi-Fi into our parks and into our downtown cores. And that's all about people working from home. So to Weldon's point, you don't want to be locked in that house 7/24, 365. So on a nice sunny day, could you not go down to the park in downtown and sit there with your laptop, have a cup of coffee, and enjoy the environment and connect to work? There's no reason you can't do those things. And you know, one of my jobs as the chair of the Western Wardens was we had underserved areas all over. You know, the Western Wardens are 320 communities from Barrie to Windsor. And a lot of those had underserved internet services. So, we went and I pursued, it took me about 22 months, but I finally got the provincial and federal governments to cough up $190 million so we could drive fiber networks into those underserved areas to make sure that people could connect to the network. And so where we're weakened in places in Barrie where we don't have good internet services, we have to stay on top of that and get funding for that, and drive that connectivity to every corner of the city of Barrie so that we can embrace working from home. Thank you.
So I'm of two minds on this, and Jerry did work as a warden and with SWIFT is the name of the program, and where he was able to do some work lobbying. I know that it took lots of members of provincial and federal parliament. It took lots of members of council around the region to continually put pressure on, and that funding came. It came after Eastern Ontario received, called EOR, believe it or not, received an incredible amount of funding. But I'm of two minds because of this. My business is fiber optics. We go in and we build fiber optic networks, and the more people who work from home, the more business we get to do. But the reality is, what we're seeing right now is that folks are getting called back to work. And if you speak to the banks or speak to different companies in downtown Toronto, if you have friends who work there, they're being called back. The remote workplace is not lasting at this point. And so I think it's twofold. Number one, we need to make sure, as Jerry just said, that we have the internet infrastructure here in the city of Barrie. Rogers is investing right on my street. One of the things that I'll commend the city for right now is that they're doing the sewers, they're doing the water, they're doing the road. The hydro is in there as well. And Rogers came to do the internet at the same time. I've never seen it actually happen all at the same time before, which is a good move. So we need to do that. But we also need to make sure that we have jobs here in Barrie, and we're not just relying on new highways being built to Toronto. We need to make sure folks can work here in Barrie, whether it's remotely or in a workplace, and that's what I'm going to work towards as your mayor.
Okay, I've got a bit of a bias here because I do work remotely. I love working remotely, and I think it's something that, you're right, some people will be called back. I am never going to be called back to my office. It is actually closed. Everybody that works for Post Media, which I do, works remotely now, and I think it's great. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think it is the way of the future for a lot of people, and I think it makes it more important than ever that we make Barrie a great place to live, because people will be able to live anywhere. So if they have a choice of where they live, we better have a great city, we better have great restaurants, we better have a great downtown, we better have lots of housing options. We have to have great parks, we have to have great recreation facilities, because people will be able to live where they want when they're working remotely, and if we want them to work in Barrie and live in Barrie, we better keep it a great place to live. So thank you.
For your company picnic, do you guys just have to go to the fridge, or how's that
That was great. Okay, that threw me off for a second. Gwen has actually been kind enough. I talked to her during the break. If the candidates are up for it, we'll give you your moment of zen, your 1 minute of final thought, and I hope that's okay with everybody. Jerry, you want to give it a go?
Okay, so another surprise question that just ends this nicely. Listen, thanks everybody for coming out. It's been my pleasure to be here to answer some questions and give my insight and some of my thoughts and different ideas on how the city looks and feels and where we go. I hope that my comments on my leadership resonate with you. I've got the background, I've got the experience from previous roles in politics and my corporate experience that I bring to the table. So I just simply leave you with this. So my brochure is there. It's got the high-level details on the back. There's a resume attached, and the website's got the really good stuff. Thanks for coming out.
I want to take the opportunity to thank Chris for moderating today. You did an excellent job. I say that in faith because there's a couple more things to go here. Also, I just want to thank all of you for coming out, because obviously citizen engagement is key to a community and to a city. And I think it's incredible we've had the opportunity today. Gwen from CARP, Engage Barrie, and obviously the Salvation Army, which is an incredible organization that does an incredible amount of work for for the homeless in the city of Barrie, as well as at Christmas time. It's always a lot of fun to jump on and help with the fundraising there. So just want to say thank you to everyone for coming today, and if you have any questions for me afterwards, feel free to come up and ask.
And I'll echo that. Thanks Gwen and CARP, and thanks Rob and Engage Barrie, and thanks Salvation Army for hosting, and thanks Chris for moderating. Really appreciate the chance to be here today, and just thank the people for coming out, because as Alex just said, you're showing a lot of engagement in the process, and that's much appreciated. We urge your neighbors and friends to vote. I mean, it's one of the most embarrassing things that we get a 30% turnout in municipal elections. We had a 42% turnout in the last provincial election. I'm not sure what the problem is, but it's really important that we get more people engaged in the process. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, everyone. I haven't been in Barrie a long time, but I've made an impact quite already. A lot of people already know who I am. Give me a little bit more time, and there's going to be a lot more I'm going to accomplish. And I'd like to end this with the most powerful paragraph that I've ever read in my life. It's changing me profoundly. No wealth or position can long endure unless built upon truth and justice. Therefore, I will engage in no transaction which does not benefit all whom it affects. I will succeed by attracting to myself the forces that I wish to use. I will induce others to serve me because of my willingness to serve others. I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing love for all humanity, because I know that a negative attitude toward others will never bring me success. I will succeed because I will believe in others and I will believe in myself. Thank you.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you. You've been a great audience. Tip your waiter. And get out and vote. Please, 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 please vote.